In biblical times, leaders would appoint priests and warriors to play instruments and sing praises on the front lines, fighting for Yahweh's people and serving the temple. Praise and worship played a profound role in both spiritual and physical battle, often perceived as an instrument wielded by Yah to inspire, protect, and lead. It is depicted as a means to communicate and evoke the presence of the Most High. One of the most notable examples is the story of the Battle of Jericho, where Joshua and the Israelites, following God's command, blew the trumpet and shouted, causing the walls of Jericho to miraculously collapse, leading to their victory. Music, when used in faith, evokes power and deliverance through the Most High. In this video, we will take you with us as we see Yahweh's people continue to use music in their lives to glorify and lift Him up, to fight battles, and to bring glory to His name.
Check 1, 2. Can you hear me now? Thank you for letting me know. I'll just sit here and ramble. So as you guys probably saw in the trailer, we did Hebrew Fest, and it was a ton of fun. In fact, I'll post a link in the comments so that you guys can go check out the full video. Yeah, Lucia did an amazing job putting that little what would you call it? It's not really a documentary or anything, but she did an amazing job putting that video together. So if you guys haven't checked it out, click the link. It's in the chat right now. I'll throw it in the description as well. But some really amazing. Thank you. It's a vlog. Appreciate that. So, anyways, we've been going, and now we're back home. We're settled in. I'm starting to get my shirts stocked back up. As you can see, we got some empty spots here, and this is pretty low too. So we got a lot more stuff to stock up. Stuff over here needs to get stocked up as well. But thank you, GR Cleve. It was really a pleasure to meet you two at Hebrew Fest. We were blessed. And yeah, we look forward to the next feast and for next Hebrew Fest. We're super excited. Something that I recently have been exploring is the Zadok calendar, and we're not going to get into that discussion today, but I think that before we just follow along with what everybody's doing, we have to know why we do what we do. So I've been testing the calendar recently, and I'll just tell you right now, I'm leaning more towards the Zadok, but we'll do an entire video on that later on. The reason I mention that is because I really don't have any idea where everybody's at on the calendar. I know it's like such a taboo conversation to have, but I like to think that I'm a pretty level-headed individual when it comes to talking about stuff. So I like to talk about stuff because if you vehemently disagree with me, I can live with that. But I won't be able to live with not knowing for myself and testing things. And that's how I came into this walk in the first place, was testing what I've been taught and knowing exactly. Richard Barber, you said it right. Study to show thyself approved unto Yahuwah, right? A workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And so I'm not afraid to study topics, and I'm not afraid to have my entire way of thinking changed, because hello, here we are. That ship sailed a long time ago. Anyways, I don't know how I got started talking about that, but let me know in the comments, either now or if you're watching this later on, would you guys be interested in doing some testing of the calendar together in a very teachable, humble, and non-dogmatic fashion? Because let's face it, sometimes we have caught ourselves or people that we love studying the word to support our own bias. And I know that I've been guilty of that. I'll have a certain theology or school of thought, way of thinking in my mind, and I will read scripture through that lens, and almost inevitably you will support your own bias. So if we want to know truth, we just have to let the Father give and take away as far as our understanding goes. Lean on our understanding, but in all our ways acknowledge him, and he'll direct our path. So KB is above your head. Sorry, I missed what you were saying. I'm going to go through and read some of the chats so I can catch up with what we have discussed so far. Encouraging community says, Shalom, gonna be working, but still listening. Shalom, encouraging community. Shalom, JS Genesis Designs. We put your our beautiful cutting board that you made for us to work this week. I think we'll have a short video coming on that. So thanks again for that. Also, Moose Run Coffee and JS Genesis Designs sponsored the microphone. They provided this microphone for me, so that was really generous, and I appreciate that a lot. This microphone is a major upgrade to the sound quality that I was able to offer before. Lucia is in the chat. She says shalom, shalom, or maybe that was me, but she's in the chat now. Palmetto Paratrooper, shalom, brother. Good to see you. Richard Barber, shalom. Medic Mouse, hey, long time no see, bro. Good to see you in here. See you in a few. We'll see if YouTube reminds me or not. I'll try to remember. Well, I hope you remembered. If you did, then shalom. If you're in the chat, if not, then shalom to the future you. Chicken farmer. I mean, shalom. You too. So 115 degrees outside San Antonio. Oh my Atlanta, that is insane. Sounds like you need to move to a better climate. Yeah, I can't disagree. That's a little crazy. I guess that's probably an anomaly though. 115 even for San Antonio seems like that's outrageously high. JS Genesis, you just reminded me of a rancher Mexican that used to yell at San Antonio, Texas every time he won the blackjack at casino I worked at. Yeah, dry heat in Arizona and Texas. I do dry heat a lot better than the humidity that we get here in Missouri. From Kansas City, just working along. Oh, yeah, I see. Not looking forward to it. I don't blame you there. Brenda Prince, shalom and good evening. Good to see you. All right. So, Kermode Bear, shalom. Good to see you. So we're picking up in chapter 11, I believe, of First Samuel. Gary, good to see you. Shalom. All right. So I'm pretty much caught up on all your guys' messages. Again, that link for the full video of Hebrew Fest. It was really well put together. You should check it out if you haven't. If you have, share it with somebody. We really want to pour into Hebrew Fest because it's an amazing way to reach and evangelize through music. Music really does break down barriers. It's a lot like laughter, right? Every nation, every tongue, every age, even babies, everybody can laugh. Everybody can laugh. We all speak the same language in that sense. So music is kind of like that. It transcends the barriers that generally will divide us. So I think it's a powerful tool. We want to bring in the harvest. And I think music is a beautiful way to do that, to get people that have different calendars, different theology, different whatever, you know what I mean? And we're just there to praise and worship the Most High together. And it's a really beautiful thing. If you guys weren't able to make it to Hebrew Fest, I would, as soon as you know the date, as soon as I know the date, I'll share it with you. I highly recommend you put that on your calendar. It's an amazing time of worship. You love my background. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, she did do a terrific job. Thank you. Okay. Study to show thyself approved. Amen. Okay, I think we're caught up. Well, we're not. There's a lot of comments, but I'm gonna go ahead and open up the word. First, well, I'll share my screen, but we're gonna open up in a word of prayer first before we start reading. There we go. All right. Let's lift our hearts to our Creator, Heavenly Father. Yah, thank you for your word, and thank you for the time and the platform that we get to dive into your word and study together. And yeah, Father, I just thank you for bringing your children together, for herding your sheep, and helping us to be your hands and feet and gathering your remnant. Father, I pray that we would be effective workmen in your field. Just make us a conduit to pour out on your children, on your blessings. And yeah, we just thank you for this time, and we ask you to bless it. Help us to understand your word and to apply it to our life. And we just love you and we honor you. We give you all the praise and glory in the name of your son, Yeshua. Amen. Excuse me. Did I not bring did not bring a water in here? That's okay. I will I will live. Okay. Here we go. Chapter 11, 1 Samuel. And Nahash the Ammonite came up and camped against Yabesh Gilead. And all the men of Yabesh said to Nahash, make a covenant with us, and we shall serve you. Then Nahash the Ammonite answered them, for this I make a covenant with you, that I dig out all your right eyes, and I shall bring reproach on all Israel. And the elders of Yabesh said to him, leave us alone for 7 days, so that we send messengers to all the borders of Israel. And then, if there is no one to save us, we shall come out to you. And the messengers came to Gibesh from Shaul, and spoke the words in the hearing of the people. And all the people lifted up their voices and wept. And look, Shaul was coming behind the herd from the field. And Shaul said, why are the people weeping? And they related to him the words of the men of Yabesh. And the spirit of Elohim came upon Shaul. This is Saul, King Saul. Okay, I'm just going to say Saul from now on. Saul the spirit of Elohim came upon Saul mightily as he heard these words, and his displeasure burned greatly. And they took a yoke of cattle and cut them in pieces and sent them throughout all the border of Israel by the hands of the messengers, saying, whoever does not go out with Saul and Samuel to battle, let this be done to his cattle. And the fear of Yahuwah fell on the people, and they came out as one man. And he mustered them in Bezek. Somebody's busting in here. Hold on one sec. Hello?
I didn't put ice in it because I know you ice in it. I think Asher might have stuck his hand in it, but it's still good.
Thank you. You want to come in?
No, I gotta go find Levi. I don't know where he's at. So.
All right. Thank you, babe. Aw. My beautiful bride brought me a cup of water. She's so sweet. All right. Excuse me. All right. Verse 8. And he mustered them, in Bezek, and the children of Israel were 300,000, and the men of Yehuda 30,000. And they said to the messengers who came, say this to the men of Yabesh Gilead, Tomorrow, by the time the sun is hot, you shall have help. Then the messengers came and informed the men of Yabesh, and they rejoiced. So the men of Yabesh said, Tomorrow we come out to you, and you shall do to us whatever seems good to you. And it came to be on the next day that Saul put the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the camp in the morning watch, and struck Ammon until the heat of the day. And it came to be that those left were scattered, so that no 2 of them were left together. And the people said to Samuel, Who said, shall Saul reign over us? Bring the men, so that we put them to death. But Saul said, No man is put to death this day, for today Yahuwah has wrought deliverance in Israel. And Samuel said to the people, Come, let us go to Gilgal and renew the reign there, or the kingdom there. And all the people went to Gilgal, and there they set up Saul to reign before Yahuwah in Gilgal, and there they slaughterings of peace offerings before Yahuwah, and there Saul rejoiced, and all the men of Israel very greatly. So, this is, I hate that we put so much time in between the first 10 chapters and this one, but they were crying out for a king. They wanted a king over them, like the other nations. And so Samuel was told by Yah to go appoint Saul king. And of course, everybody loved Saul. He was a great candidate for being a king, because he was like head and shoulder above all other men. He was a very tall and a goodly man. But anyways, they're anointing, or Samuel is anointing Saul as king here. If I could get back over to my Bible page. Sorry, guys. There it is. Command, bam. Chapter 12. And Samuel said to all Israel, Look, I have listened to your voice in all that you said to me, and have set a king over you. And now, look, the king is walking before you, and I am old and gray. And look, my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my youth to this day. Look, here I am, witness against me before Yahuwah and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken, or whose donkey have I taken, or whom have I oppressed? Whom have I abused, or from whose hand have I received any bribe with which to blind my eyes? Then I restore it to you. And they said, You have not oppressed us or abused us, nor have you taken any bribe from anyone's hand. So he said to them, Yahuwah is witness against you, and his anointed is witness today, that you have found nothing in my hand. And they answered, He is witness. And Samuel said to the people, It is Yahuwah who appointed Moshe and Aaron, and who brought your fathers up from the land of Mitzrayim. And now stand still, so that I judge you before Yahuwah concerning all the righteous acts of Yahuwah, which he did to you and your fathers. When Jacob had come to Mitzrayim, and your fathers cried out to Yahuwah, then Yahuwah sent Moshe and Aaron who brought your fathers out of Mitzrayim and made them dwell in this place. And they forgot Yahuwah their Elohim, so they sold them into the hands of Sisera. So he sold them, into the hands of Sisera, commander of the army of Hatzor, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the sovereign of Moab, and they fought against them. And they cried out to Yahuwah and said, We have sinned because we have forsaken Yahuwah and served the Baals and the Ashtaroth. And now deliver us from the hand of our enemies, and we serve you. And Yahuwah sent Yerubbabel and Beden and Yiftah and Samuel and delivered you out of the hand of your enemies round about, and you dwelt in safety. And when you saw that Nahash, king of the children of Ammon, came against you, you said to me, no, but let a king reign over us, when Yahuwah your Elohim was your king. See, they said, and you saw Nahash, king of the children of Ammon, come against you. You said to me, this is Samuel, no, but let a king reign over us, when Yahuwah your Elohim was your king. And now, here is the king whom you have chosen and whom you have asked. And see, Yahuwah has set a king over you. If you fear Yahuwah and shall serve him and obey his voice, and not rebel against the command of Yahuwah, then both you and the king who reigns over you shall follow Yahuwah your Elohim. But if you do not obey the voice of Yahuwah and shall rebel against the mouth of Yahuwah, then the hand of Yahuwah shall be against you, as it was against your fathers. And now stand and see this great matter which Yahuwah does before your eyes. Is today not the wheat harvest? Let me call to Yahuwah, so that he sends thunder and rain. Know then and see that your evil is great, which you have done in the eyes of Yahuwah, in asking for yourselves a king. And Samuel called to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah sent thunder and rain that day, and all the people greatly feared Yahuwah and Samuel. And all the people said to Samuel, pray for your servants to Yahuwah your Elohim, that we do not die. For we have added to all our sins this evil of asking ourselves a king. And Samuel said to the people, do not fear, you have done all this. Do not fear, you have done all this evil. Only do not turn aside from following Yahuwah. You shall serve Yahuwah with all your heart, and do not turn aside after worthless matters, which do not profit or deliver, for they are worthless. For Yahuwah would not cast away his people, for his great name's sake, seeing it has pleased Yahuwah to make you his people. Also, as for me, far be it from me that I should sin against Yahuwah in ceasing to pray for you, but I shall teach you the good and straight way. Only fear Yahweh, and you shall serve him in truth with all your heart, For consider what marvels he has done for you. But if you persist in doing evil, both you and your king are consumed. I'm going to read this one more time. I think this is very potent right here. For Yahweh would not cast away his people for his great name's sake, seeing it has pleased Yahweh to make you his people. Also, as for me, far be it from me that I should sin against Yahweh in ceasing to pray for you, but I shall teach you in the good and straight way. Only fear Yahweh, and you shall serve him in truth with all your heart, for consider what marvels he has done for you. But if you persist in doing evil, both you and your king are consumed. This makes me think of the United States right here. But if you persist in doing evil, both you and your king are consumed. Now look at who they have appointed over us as king. Not king, but you know what I mean. This whole nation is in danger because our people reject the Most High. 1 Samuel 13. Saul was blank years old when he began to reign. Real quick, does anybody have insight on what that is right there? That dot dot dot. Do we not have a number in any other translations? If anybody can add some context, it seems as though there should have been a number that we could have listed there. Yeah, I don't know. You might be right about that, Richard Barber. I know that it's my mission to bring as many people out of the house as possible because we know it's on fire. We know it's burning and got to get them out. Get them out. Um, yep. Yep. I didn't even see that comment when I said that, but yeah, makes sense. Anyone have a Septuagint handy? I do not. I might have other Bible translations. I don't know how to internet you guys. You already know that probably. Oh well, if we don't know, I'm just interested. I know it doesn't maybe matter, but it does give context. I mean, if he was 7 or if he was 47, there's a huge difference. But I get it. We'll move on. Hey, Badger, shalom, brother. Good to see you. Okay. When Saul was mystery, I can't know the Bible trivia answer if I don't know it's a Bible trivia thing, okay? I'm interested in the details. I want to know how old he was now. Okay, Saul was mystery number years old when he began to reign and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel. Saul chose for himself 3,000 men of Israel, and 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and in the mountains of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. And the rest of the people he sent away, each to his tent. And Jonathan struck the watchposts of the Philistines that was at Gibeah, and the Philistines heard of it, and Saul blew with the shofar throughout all the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." And all Israel heard the news that Saul had stricken the watchposts of the Philistines, and also that Israel had become a stench to the Philistines. And the people were the people were summoned to Saul at Gilgal, and the Philistines gathered to fight Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as numerous as the sand of the seashore. And they came up and encamped in Michmash, east of Beth Awen. And I just realized that I left my ugly mug up there instead of the word. So there we go. Also, let's take this message down. Okay. Says he was 30. Cool. My understanding is he was 6. Okay. Google says he was 30. Sorry. Squirrel. Back to the word. All right. Verse 5, and the Philistines gathered to fight Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as numerous as the sand of the sea on the seashore. And they came up and camped in Michmash east of Beth Awen. And the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble, for all the people were distressed, and the people hid in caves and in thorny bushes and in rocks and in holes and in pits. And some Hebrews passed over the Jordan to the land of Gad in Gilead. But Saul was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him, trembling. And he waited for 7 days according to the appointment with Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. And Saul said, "Bring an ascending offering and peace offerings here to me." And he offered the ascending offering. And it came to be, as he had finished offering the ascending offering, look, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, to bless him. Then Samuel said, "What have you done?" And Saul said, "Because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered at Michmash. So I said, the Philistines are going to come down on me at Gilgal, and I have not appeased the face of Yahuwah. So I felt compelled and offered an ascending offering." And Samuel said to Saul, "You have been foolish. You have not guarded the commandment of Yahweh your Elohim, which he commanded you. For now Yahuwah would have established your king over Israel forever. But now your reign is not going to stand. Yahuwah shall seek for himself a man after his own heart. Hello, David. And Yahuwah shall command him to be leader over his people, because you have not guarded what Yahuwah commanded you. And Samuel arose and went up from Gilgal to Geba and Benjamin. And Saul mustered the people who were present with him, about 600 men. And Saul and Jonathan his son, and the people who were present with them, remained in Geba of Benjamin, while the Philistines camped at Michmash. And from the camp of the Philistines, raiders went out in 3 companies. The one company turned to the way of the leads of Ophrah. Sounds like Oprah. To the land of Saul. And another company turned toward the way of Beth Horon. And another company turned toward the way of the border that overlooks the valley of Seboim, toward the wilderness. Now no blacksmith could be found in all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make swords or spears. And all Israel went down to the Philistines, each one to sharpen his plowshare and his mattock and his axe and his sickle. And the charge was a pim for the plowshares. And the charge was a pim for the plowshares and the mattocks and the forks and axes, and to set the points of the goads. I wonder what a pim, what kind of value that is. Verse 22, and it came to be on the day of battle that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people who were with Saul and Jonathan, but they were found with Saul and Jonathan his son. And the outpost of the Philistines went out to the pass of Michmash. Chapter 14, and it came to be one day that Jonathan, son of Saul, came to the young man who bore his armor. Come, let us go over to the outpost of the Philistines, which is on the other side. But he did not inform his father. And Saul remained at the outskirts of Geba, under the pomegranate tree at Migron. And the people who were with him were about 600 men. And Ahiah, son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of Yahuwah in Shiloh, was wearing a shoulder garment, and the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. And between the passes by which Jonathan sought to go over to the outpost of the Philistines, there was an edge of a rock on one side and an edge of a rock on the other side. And the name of one was Botzetz, and the name of the other Sina. And one edge was on the north opposite Michmash, and the other on the south opposite Geba. And Jonathan said to the young man who bore his armor, come, let us go over to the outpost for these uncircumcised. If so be Yahuwah does work for us, for there is no hindrance for Yahuwah to save by many or by few. And his armor bearer said to him, do all that is in your heart, incline yourself. See, I am with you according to your heart. And Jonathan said, see, we are passing over to the men and show ourselves to them. If they say to us, wait until we come to you, then we shall stand still in our place and not go up to them. But if they say this, come up to us, then we shall go up, for Yahuwah has given them into our hand, and this is the sign to us. And both of them disclosed themselves to the outpost of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, see, the Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have hidden. And the men of the outpost called to Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, come up to us, and let us teach you a lesson. Then Jonathan said to his armor bearer, come up after me, for Yahuwah has given them into the hand of Israel. And Jonathan climbed up on his hands and knees with his armor bearer after him, and they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer was putting them to death behind him. And that first smiting which Jonathan and his armor bearer struck was about 20 men in about half an acre of land. And there was trembling in the camp, in the field, and among all the people. The outpost and the raiders also trembled, and the ground shook, and it became a trembling of Elohim. I just picture that scene right there being like a movie. You know what I'm saying? You got Jonathan and his armor bearer, and they just go in. They're like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And they're like, "We're gonna kill you. Come over here." And they just go in there and slaughter 20 on 2. That's pretty good odds. I mean, pretty, you know, unfair scales there. So we got verse 16, and the watchmen of Saul in Geba of Benjamin looked and saw the crowd melting away, and they went here and there. And Saul said to the people who were with him, "Please inspect and see who has gone from us." So they inspected and saw that Jonathan and his armor bearer were missing. And Saul said to Ahiah, "Bring the ark of Elohim here," for the ark of Elohim was with the children of Israel on that day. And it came to be, while Saul talked to the priests and that the noise which was in the camp of the Philistines went on and became great. So Saul said to the priest, "Withdraw your hand." And Saul was called, and all the people who were with him, and they went to the battle, and see, every man's sword was against his neighbor, a very great confusion. And the Hebrews who were with the Philistines before that time, who went up with them into the camp, turned around, they too, to be with Israel, who were with Saul and Jonathan. And all the men of Israel who had hidden in the mountains of Ephraim heard that the Philistines fled, and they also pursued them in the battle. Thus Yahuwah saved Israel that day, and the battle passed over to Beth Awen. So one thing too I want to point out about Jonathan, right, is the boldness, the courage of him being willing to go and fight the Philistines, just him and his armor bearer. But I think like what may be easier to gloss over is the confidence in Jonathan and in Yahuwah that the armor bearer had, right? He's just like, whatever you say, I'm following you. And yeah, I think it's super cool. I mean, kudos to that. I don't know if kudos is probably a bad thing, but good on that armor bearer for being so dedicated to Jonathan. And he was like Joshua's Caleb, right? But anyways, I'll try to quit interrupting. Let's keep reading. Thus Yahuwah saved Israel that day, and the battle passed over to Beth Awen. Verse 24. And the men of Israel were distressed that day, for Saul had placed the people under oath, saying, "Cursed be the man who eats food until evening, and I have taken revenge on my enemies." Therefore none of the people tasted food. None of them, though. And they of the land came into the woods, and there was honey on the ground. And the people came into the woods and saw the honey dripping, but no one put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. But Jonathan, his son, had not heard that his father had taken an oath of the people, and he stretched out the end of the rod was and stretched out the end of the rod that was in his hand, and dipped it in a honeycomb, and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes lit up. Then one of the people said, "Your father strictly took an oath of the people, saying, 'Cursed be the man who eats food today.' And the people were weary. And Jonathan said, 'My father has troubled the land. Now see, my eyes lit up when I tasted of this honey. How much better if the people had well eaten today for the spoil of their enemies which they found. For then would not the slaughter among the Philistines have been greater." Oh, for then would not the slaughter among the Philistines have been greater? And they struck the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aelon. So the people were very weary. And the people pounced on the spoil, and took sheep and cattle and calves, and slew them on the ground. And the people ate with the blood. So I just picture them just not even so. And you'll find out in the next few chapter or paragraphs they get rebuked and then they make an altar. So an altar, yes, it's for worship and sacrifice, but also it was more like a barbecue pit from my understanding. This is where they would cook the meat for any purpose, whether it's an offering or, they just consider it a meal. But anyways, they were not cooking this food. It was raw meat from what I understand here, because we'll just keep reading. And they struck the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aelon, and the people were very weary. And the people pounced on the spoil and took sheep and cattle and calves and slew them on the ground, and the people ate with the blood. And they told Saul, saying, "Look, the people are sinning against Yahuwah by eating with the blood." And he said, "You have acted treacherously. Roll a large stone to me today." And Saul said, "Scatter among the people and say to them, each one bring his ox near to me, and each one his sheep, and you shall slay them here and eat. And do not sin against Yahuwah by eating with the blood." So every one of the people brought his ox with him that night and slew it. And Saul built a slaughter place to Yahuwah. It was the first slaughter place he built to Yahuwah. And Saul said, "Let us go down after the Philistines by night and plunder them until the morning light, and not leave a man of them." And they said, "Do whatever seems good to you." But the priest said, "Let us draw near to Elohim here." And Saul asked of Elohim, "Should I go down after the Philistines? Do you give them into the hand of Israel?" But he did not answer him that day. And Saul said, "Come over here, all you chiefs of the people, and know and see what this sin was today." And to have a little debrief. For as Yahuwah lives, who saves Israel, though it be in Jonathan my son, he shall certainly die. But not one among all the people answered him. And he said to all Israel, "You be on one side, and my son Jonathan and I be on the other side." And the people said to Saul, "Do what seems good to you." Then Saul said to Yahuwah, Elohim of Israel, "Give a perfect lot." And Saul and Jonathan were taken, and the people escaped. And Saul said, "Cast lots between my son Jonathan and me." And Jonathan was taken. Saul then said to Jonathan, "Explain to me what you have done." And Jonathan explained to him and said, "I only tasted a little honey with the end of the rod that was in my hand. See, let me die." And Saul answered, "Elohim do so and more also, for you shall certainly die, Jonathan." So this is something I think easy to gloss over as well, but check it out. He proclaimed that whoever would eat that day will certainly die. Power of life and death is in the tongue. And when that's what I think it's saying. Like, don't swear by anything in heaven or on earth, but let your yes be yes and your no be no. Everything else is vanity. So we shouldn't say, I swear, or, make certain proclamations like that willy-nilly, because there's power in the tongue. Anyways, I'll keep going. Verse 45. But the people said to Saul, "Should Jonathan die, who has wrought this great salvation in Israel? Far be it. As Yahuwah lives, let not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he has wrought with Elohim this day." Thus the people ransomed Jonathan, and he did not die. And Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. And Saul took the reign over Israel and fought against all his enemies round about, against Moab, and against the children of Ammon, and against Edom, and against the sovereigns of Sabo, and against the Philistines, and wherever he turned, he inflicted punishment. I think sorry, I'll really try to quit interrupting, but also the whole thing with power, life, and death in the tongue, right? So Yahuwah told Adam, "Surely the day that you eat of the fruit of the garden, you will surely die." But he didn't die that day, at least in our understanding, right? But a day to Yahuwah is as 1,000 years. So he did die before he turned 1,000 years old. and I know that that might be controversial, but just bear with me. I'm not perfect, but that's my understanding. And so we know that Jonathan did indeed die, but not until after David was king and Jonathan had established a relationship. They were like one soul. They were so close. They were like one person. They were more than best friends. But anyways, I'll just keep going. Verse 48. And he gathered an army and struck the Amalekites and delivered Israel from the hand of those who plundered them. And the sons of Saul were Jonathan and Jesse. I think that's Jesse. Yeshua. And Malchishua. And the names of the two daughters were these: the name of the firstborn, Merab, and the name of the younger, Michal. And the name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam, and the daughter of Ahimaaz. And the name of the commander of his army was Abner, son of Ner, uncle of Shaul. And Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. And there was tough fighting against the Philistines all the days of Saul. And when Saul saw many mighty men or any brave man, he took him for himself. So he recruited all the really strong and big and valiant army guys, right? Chapter 15, verse 1. And Samuel said to Saul, Yahuwah sent me to anoint you king over his people, over Israel. And now listen to the voice of the words of Yahuwah. Thus said Yahuwah of hosts, I shall punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, and how he set himself up against him on the way when he came up from Mitzrayim. Now go, and you shall strike Amalek, and put under the ban all that he has, and you shall not spare them, and put them to death from man to woman, from infant to nursing child, from ox to sheep, from camel to donkey. Then Saul summoned the people and mustered them in Telaim, 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Yehuda. Okay, so does it sound like he wants anybody left behind right here? No, it does not. It says from man, says you shall not spare them. Man, woman, infant, nursing child, ox, sheep, camel, donkey, everything must go. Liquidation sale. No, everybody's got to go though. Then Saul summoned the people and mustered them in Telaim, 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Yehuda. And Saul came to a city of Amalek and lay in wait in the Wadi. And Saul said to the Canaanites, Go, turn aside, come down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For you did show loving commitment to all the children of Israel when they came up. For you did show loving commitment to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Mitzrayim. To the Canaanites turned aside. So the Canaanites turned aside from the midst of the Amalekites. And Saul struck the Amalekites from Hiwala all the way to Shur, which is before Mitzrayim, Egypt. And he caught Agag, king of the Amalekites, alive. That is where he messed up. Caught him alive and put under the ban all the people with the edge of the sword, except for the king of the Amalekites. But Saul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, also a no-no, and the cattle and the fatlings and the lambs and all that was good, and would not put them under the ban. And that's another way of saying kill them. But all the goods despised and worthless that they put under the ban. They destroyed everything that was despised and worthless only. And the word of Yahuwah came to Samuel, saying, I am grieved that I set Saul up, that I have set up Saul as king, for he has turned back from following me and has not performed my words. Sorry, I have a mustache here that decided to flip upwards. And has not performed my words. Where is that thing? Oh, got it. And he despised Samuel, and he cried to Yahuwah all night. And Samuel rose early in the morning to meet Saul, and it was told to Samuel, saying, Saul went to Carmel, and see, he set up a monument for himself, then turned and passed over and went down to Gilgal. And Samuel said to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed are you of Yahuwah. I have performed the word of Yahuwah. But Samuel said, What then is this bleating of the sheep in my ears, and the lowing of the cattle which I hear? He's talking about all the cattle and sheep that they took from that land that are supposed to be dead. And Saul said, They have brought them from Amalek, because the people spared the best of the sheep and the cattle to slaughter to Yahuwah your Elohim. And the rest we shall put under the ban. The ban. Interesting, right? We see it today, and we saw it when they came out of Egypt, that they were using what is not pleasing to the Most High to offer to the Most High, right? Interestingly enough, right? It's what they brought out of Egypt. It's what they brought out of Mitzrayim, the gold that they borrowed from the Egyptians, right? Borrowed or just, I don't know how that works out. But anyways, they got gold from them and ended up, I think, this is my speculation, so just to be fair, I think they used the very gold that they borrowed from Egypt, what they brought out of Egypt with them, they used that to make a golden calf. There's symbolism in that, right? So we come out of her, my people, we come out of Babylon, out of spiritual Sodom and Egypt, but what do we bring out with us? There's a lot of stuff sometimes, at least for us in our home, we had things that we would just, all of a sudden we'd be like, what is that? How is that in our house? And you start seeing images on things. And anyways, you get where I'm coming from, okay? Sometimes we leave Egypt, but we still got things that we brought with us. We carry the baggage out with us. Sometimes we got to make sure that we get rid of that stuff. But anyways, they brought this out of that land from Amalek, and they even had intentions, supposedly, to use it to worship Yahuwah, which is not pleasing to him. And the rest we have put under the ban. So they took all the good stuff, supposedly for Yah, and the rest they put under the ban. Verse 16. And Samuel said to Saul, Wait, and let me declare to you what Yahuwah had said to me last night. And he said to him, Speak. And Samuel said, Though you were little in your own eyes, he's talking about before he was king, though you were little in your own eyes, were you not the head of the tribes of Israel? And did not Yahuwah anoint you king over Israel? Because remember when Samuel came to Saul and told him that he was to be king, he was like, I'm from Benjamin. That's like one of the smallest, most insignificant, least impressive tribes. It's so small. And he's like, yep, you're the one. Verse 18, and Yahuwah sent you on the way and said, Go, and you shall put under the ban the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. And why did you not obey the voice of Yahuwah, but swooped down on spoil and did evil in the eyes of Yahuwah? And Saul said to Samuel, I did obey the voice of Yahuwah. I went on the way on which Yahuwah sent me and brought back Agag, king of Amalek, and I put Amalek under the ban. So they killed all the people of Amalek, but they brought Agag, their king, back. But the people took of the spoil of the sheep and cattle the best of that which should have been put under the ban to slaughter to Yahuwah your Elohim in Gilgal. Then Samuel said, Does Yahuwah delight in ascending offerings and slaughterings, as in obeying the voice of Yahuwah? Look, to obey is better than slaughtering. To heed is better than the fat of rams. Powerful, powerful. Verse 23, for rebellion is as the sin of divination. You guys hear that? Do not resist the instruction he gives us. For rebellion is as the sin of divination, and stubbornness is as wickedness and idolatry. We ought not to brag in our stubbornness. I know some of us are stubborn, but it's not a good thing. It's not pleasing in his eyes that we are stubborn. Because you have rejected the word of Yahuwah, he also does reject you as king. And Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the mouth of Yahuwah and your words, because I feared the people and listened to their voice. And now, please pardon my sin and return with me, and let me bow myself to Yahuwah. But Samuel said to Saul, I do not return with you, for you have rejected the word of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah does reject you from being king over Israel. And as Samuel turned around to go away, Saul took hold of the edge of his robe and tore it. And Samuel said to him, Yahuwah has torn the reign of Israel from you today, and has given it to a neighbor of yours better than you. Moreover, your eminence of Israel does not lie nor relent, for he is not a man that he should relent. Then he said, I have sinned, but esteem me now, please, therefore, please before the elders of my people and before Israel, and return with me, and I shall bow myself to Yahweh your Elohim. And Samuel turned back after Saul, and Saul bowed himself to Yahuwah. And Samuel said, bring Agag, king of the Amalekites, here to me. So Agag came to him delightedly, and Agag said, truly, the bitterness of death has turned aside. And so he thought he was getting off scot-free. And Samuel said, as your sword bereaves women, let your mother be bereaved among women too. Samuel then hewed Agag to pieces before Yahuwah in Gilgal. And Samuel went to Ramah, while Saul went up to his house in Geba of Saul. And Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death, for Samuel mourned for Saul, and Yahuwah was grieved that he had made Saul king over Israel. Oh man, I love these stories, and we haven't even got to David and Goliath yet. Anybody have anything you want to contribute to what we're reading here? Love to catch you guys a little bit in the chat. Bobby Thorne, shalom. Good to see you, brother. Bobby Thorns was at Hebrew Fest. It was awesome, man. It was really good. You gotta laugh at what he said. His brother Moses, though, typical brother to brother excuses. I must have missed it. The gold was used to clean their inward parts. Well, I guess that's a theory. All right, let's go ahead and hit a couple more chapters. We gotta find a good spot to park before we end our reading for the day. Let me put it back over here so you can see the scripts. All right. Chapter 16, 1 Samuel. And Yahuwah said to Samuel, how long are you going to mourn for Saul, saying, I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I am sending you to Jesse. That's Jesse of the Bethlehemite. For I have seen among his sons a king for myself. And Samuel said, how would I go? When Saul hears it, he shall kill me. And Yahuwah said, take a heifer with you and say, I have come to slaughter to Yahuwah. And you shall invite Jesse to the slaughtering. Then let me show you what to do. And you shall anoint for me the one I say to you. It's interesting, right? This is so how the Father has worked in my life. He's like, how am I going to do this? And he's like, take a heifer with you and say, I've come to slaughter to Yahuwah, and you shall invite Jesse to the slaughtering, and then let me show you what to do. So he's like, do this, and then I'll tell you where to go from there. First, you got to just do what I said, and then we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I feel that is very, very much how the Father instructs me. One step at a time. I don't get to see the whole picture all up front. I just gotta go, yes, sir, and make the move when he tells me. And you shall anoint for me the one I say to you, says Yahuwah to Samuel. And Samuel did what Yahuwah said and went to Bethlehem. And the elders of the town trembled at his coming and said, do you come in peace? And he said, in peace. I have come to slaughter to Yahuwah. Set yourselves apart, and you shall come with me to the slaughtering. And he set Jesse and his sons apart and invited them to the slaughtering. And it came to be when they came that he saw Eliab and thought, the anointed of Yahuwah is indeed before him. But Yahuwah said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For not as man sees, for man looks at the eyes, but Yahuwah looks at the heart. I think the KJV says, for man looks at the outward appearance, maybe, but Yahuwah looks at the heart. Verse 8, then Jesse called Aminadab and made him pass before Samuel and said, neither has Yahuwah chosen this one. Next, Jesse made Shammah pass by, and he said, neither has Yahuwah chosen this one. And Jesse made 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. And Samuel said to Jesse, Yahuwah has not chosen these. And Samuel said to Jesse, are these all the young men? And he said, there remains yet the youngest, and see, he is tending the sheep. And Samuel said to Jesse, send and bring him, for we do not turn round till he comes here. So we know David was a man after Yah's own heart. So check it out. When Peter was walking with Yeshua, Yeshua said, do you love me, Peter? Peter says, Master, you know I love you. He says, feed my sheep. You see where I'm going with this, you guys? This is where David was when he was being called to be king. He was tending to the sheep. Okay? Because he's a good shepherd. Anyways, we'll just keep going. And Samuel said to Jesse, send and bring him, for we do not turn round till he comes here. Verse 12. And he sent and brought him in, and he was ruddy with bright eyes and handsome. And Yahuwah said, arise, anoint him, for this is the one. So ruddy, just an interesting side note, I think. I have heard, and I don't know, 1612. Let's just check it out. 1612. What is that? 1612. Said, is that? Oh, that's not it. Ruddy. What does that word mean? Reddish of hair or complexion, red or ruddy. So take that, Black Hebrew Israelites. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. That's not nice. But anyways, that I believe is a verse that lets us know that, you know, he, like Esau, was a man of red hair, which again, I just test things. Okay. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reading. Let's go back to this. Verse 12. And he sent and brought him in, and he was ruddy with bright eyes and handsome. And Yahuwah said, arise, anoint him, for this is the one. And Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers. And the Spirit of Yahuwah came upon David from that day and onwards. And Samuel arose and went to Ramah. And the Spirit of Yahuwah turned aside from Shaul, and an evil spirit from Yahuwah troubled him. And the servants of Shaul said to him, "Look now, an evil spirit from Elohim is troubling you. Please let our master command your servants who are before you and seek out a man who is a skilled player on the lyre. And it shall be that when the evil spirit from Elohim is upon you, that he shall play with his hand, and you be well." And Saul said to his servants, "Please get me a man that plays well, and bring him to me." And one of the servants answered and said, "Look, I have seen the son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, who knows how to play, a brave one, a man of battle, and skilled in words, and a handsome man, and Yahuwah is with him." So he was already known at this time, interestingly, as a man of battle. And he's just a shepherd at this time, right? Verse 19. So Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, "Send me your son David, who is with the sheep." And Jesse took a donkey loaded with bread and a skin of wine and a young goat, and sent them by his son David to Saul. And David came to Saul and stood before him, and he loved him greatly and became his armor bearer. Remember about the other armor bearer, right? That Jonathan's armor bearer was loyal to the soil, brother. All right, verse 22. Saul, therefore, sent to Jesse, saying, "Please let David stand before me, for he has found favor in my eyes." It came to be, whenever the evil spirit from Elohim was upon Saul, that David would take a lyre and play it with his hand, and Saul would become refreshed and well, and the evil spirit would leave him. And the Philistines had gathered their armies for battle and came together at Soko, which belongs to Yehuda, and encamped between Soko and Azekah in Ephes Damim. And Saul, and the men of Israel were gathered and encamped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in battle array to meet the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on a mountain on one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, with the valley between them. That's like a scene from a movie, right? Then a champion came out from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath. Oh, wait, this has definitely been in movies. Named Goliath from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span, and a bronze helmet was on his head, and he was armed with a scaled armor, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze, and bronze shin guards on his legs, and a bronze spear between his shoulders. It's interesting. The KJV says a bronze target between his shoulders. And the wood of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his iron spearhead weighed 600 shekels, and a shield bearer went before him. And he stood and shouted to the armies of Israel and said to them, "Why have you come out to line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And you, the servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourself, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me, and shall strike me, then we shall be your servants. But if I overcome him, and shall strike him, then you shall be our servants, and serve us." Then the Philistines said, "This day I shall reproach the armies of Israel. Give me a man, and let us fight together." And Saul and all of Israel heard these words of the Philistine, and they were broken down and in great fear. Now David was the son of that Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons in the days of Saul. The man was old among men. Interesting how they spell that out so clearly, so there's no confusion for the rest of history what David they're talking about. Verse 13, And the 3 oldest sons of Jesse went and had gone to follow Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab, the firstborn, and his second Abinadab, and the third Shammah. Verse 14, and David was the youngest, and the 3 oldest followed Saul. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And for 40 days the Philistine drew near, morning and evening, and took his stand. Then Jesse said to his son David, please take to your brothers an ephah of this dried grain and these 10 loaves, and run to your brothers at the camp. And take these 10 cheeses to the commander of the 1,000, and see how your brothers are, and bring back news of them. And Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning and left the sheep with a herdsman, and took and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the camp as the army was going out to the fight, and they shouted for the battle. And Israel and the Philistines drew up in battle array, army against army. And David left his supplies in the hand of the keeper of the supplies, and ran to the army, and he came and greeted his brothers. And he was speaking with them, and saw the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, coming up from the armies of the Philistines. And he spoke according to the same words. And David heard. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, ran from him and were in great fear. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? For he has come up to reproach Israel. And it shall be that the man who strikes him, the king is going to enrich him with great riches, and give him his daughter, and give his father's house exemption in Israel. And David spoke to the men who stood by him, saying, what shall be done for the man who strikes this Philistine, and shall take away reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should reproach the armies of the living Elohim? And the people answered him according to this word, saying, this is what is done for the man who strikes him. And Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men. And Eliab's displeasure burned against David, and he said, why did you come down here? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. And David said, now what have I done? Was it not but a word? And he turned around from him toward another and said the same word. And these people answered him a word like the first word. So he's asking people, what happens to the man that slays this giant? Okay. And when the words which David spoke were heard, they reported them to Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant is going and shall fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he a man of battle from his youth. So I wonder what exactly is considered to be a youth. I picture David to be like, I don't know, like 18 or something. He's young, but he's like becoming a man. I don't know. Verse 34. I wonder if there's any scripture to give us more context on his actual age. Then David said to Saul, your servant has been tending sheep for his father, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock. Okay, anyways, sorry, I butchered that verse. I do know David was, I believe, 30 years old when he became king. So that gives us a little context. Verse 34, then David said to Saul, your servant has been tending sheep for his father. And when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and struck it and rescued it from its mouth. And when it rose against me, I took hold of it by its beard and struck it and killed it, killing a lion and a bear, folks. I mean, he's got confidence. The Father's already gave him like Samson's strength in times when he needed to kill a lion and a bear. Verse 36, your servant has stricken both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, seeing he has reproached the armies of the living Elohim. See, look, he's not concerned about him defying Israel. He keeps on mentioning you defy the living Elohim. Okay, everybody else is like, oh, he defies Israel. But he is defying specifically Israel and the armies of the living Elohim. And David said, Yahuwah, who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he does deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and Yahuwah be with you. And Saul dressed David with his garments, and he put a bronze helmet on his head and put a coat of armor on him. And David girded his sword over his garments and began to go, but he had not tried them. Then David said to Saul, I am not able to go with these, for I have not tried them. So David took them off. So even David believes in training with your gear. Okay. I'll just leave it at that. He's like, I've never worn these before. I'm not comfortable with these on. I've never even tried these. I don't know that this is going to work. So he's going to stick with what he knows. And he took his staff in his hand, verse 40, and chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the wadi and put them in a shepherd's bag, in a pouch which he had. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistines. And the Philistines came and began drawing near to David. And the man who bore the shield went before him. And when the Philistines looked about and saw David, he despised them, for he was a youth, and ruddy and of handsome appearance. And the Philistines said to David, am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his mighty ones. And the Philistines said to David, come to me, and I give your flesh to the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field. Interesting. Somehow it harkens back to Jonathan, right? When he said, when I go to the Philistines, he's praying to Yah, saying, when I go to the Philistines, if they say, come to me, then I know that he has delivered the Philistines into my hand. And now we're hearing the same call. Maybe it's coincidence, but I don't know. I doubt it. And David said to the Philistine, okay, so no, the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I give your flesh to the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field. But David said to the Philistine, you come to me with sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of the armies of Israel, whom you have reproached. This day Yahuwah shall deliver you into my hand, and I shall strike you and take your head from you. So David, remember, does not even have a sword in his hand, but he says, I'm going to take your head from you and give the carcasses to the camp of the Philistines today, to the birds of the heavens and the wild beasts of the earth, so that all the earth shall know that Elohim is for Israel. And all this assembly know that Yahuwah does not save with sword and spear, for the battle belongs to Yahuwah, and he shall give you into your hands. Okay, so for everybody who's doomsday prepping, look, it's good to have training. It's good to know how to use your tools. But Yahuwah does not save with sword or 9 or AR. And I have 9s and ARs, and I love them, and I know how to use them. But Yahuwah is the one who wins the battle for us. I just want to make that point. For the battle belongs to Yahuwah, and he shall give you into our hands, speaking to Goliath. And it came to be, when the Philistines arose and came and drew near to meet David, that David hurried and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine on his forehead, so that the stone sank into his forehead. and he fell on his face to the ground. Thus David was stronger than the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and struck the Philistine and killed him. And there was no sword in the hand of David. Then David ran and took over the Philistine, stood over the Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of his sheath and killed him and cut off his head with it. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and Judah rose and shouted and pursued the Philistines as far as the entrance of the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell among the way to Sha'araim, even as far as Gath and Ekron. And the children of Israel turned back from chasing the Philistines, and they plundered their camps. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his weapons in his tent. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to hold on to those. Verse 55, and when Shaul saw David going out against the Philistines, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, as your being lives, O sovereign, O king, I do not know. And the king said, ask whose son this young man is. And when David returned from the striking of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, whose son are you, young man? And David said, the son of your servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. All right, verse 18. Man, you guys gotta love 1 Samuel, right? This is good. I love 1 Samuel. So verse 18 is where we're gonna pick up on the next live stream Bible reading. But yeah. Sorry for all my interjections tonight. I'm not sure why I can't just read, but I really look forward to getting through this Bible reading so I can do more Bible studies, because that's how I like to read. I don't like to just blow through stuff. There's too many jewels to just skip and jump and not even, dig in a little bit. Shalom, Hooter and Torah. Miss you too, brother. Thank you, Richard Barber. Bless you all. Thank you for following along. Yes, amen. When facing a trial, remember the might of our God. Our Elohim is mighty, and he is, man, it's like Peter walking on the water, right? When we go through the trials, we get focused on the waves and we start to drown. We start to sink in them. But when we keep our eyes focused on Yeshua, we got solid ground under our feet, even if it's tumultuous waters in real life. Bless you, brother. I just found out, Aki, man, how you say that? I hear some people saying it, Ach, or Ak. That means brother. So if you guys see that, I had to look it up myself in Hebrew. But yeah, bless you, brother. Thank you. Thanks for being here, man. It's cool to see you in the chat. Yeah, my brother J.O. said Ak, and I'm like, man, what is that word? I don't know what that means. I finally had to look it up. Yeah, iron doesn't sharpen iron unless you have a discussion. I agree. I like dissecting things, and it doesn't mean that my interpretations are correct, but that's why you guys are in here, that's iron sharpens iron. Otherwise it's just iron flailing around up over here. You know what I'm saying? So I need you guys to check if I'm saying something that doesn't line with scripture. I receive that if you correct me. I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys don't mind the interjections. I just like to not do it too much so that we lose context on what we're reading. And I hope, if anything, it adds context, but I'm not trying to position myself as a teacher on here. I just want to I want to dig. It says it's the glory of God to conceal a matter and the honor of kings to search it out. So I'm always digging and trying to search. Yep. I always need friction to sharpen up. And my brother Jerry from Texas said he's got an awesome saying, and we're fixing to potentially put it on a t-shirt. Not sure, but something to the effect of everybody likes iron sharpens iron until the sparks start to fly. Which that reminds me of a verse in Ecclesiasticus. It says that a friend cannot be known in prosperity and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity. And I'm sure 100% of you guys can relate with that in some form. Yeah, I agree. Don't never accept any doctrine that can't be blatantly confirmed in multiple places in the book, right? And we're testing things, man. I come out of the Sunday Christian, well, very worldly version of Sunday Christian church. The once saved, always saved, hyper grace version for me. And yeah, once I started realizing everything I had confidence and thought I knew to be true didn't actually line up with scripture at all. It was a very humbling thing, and it's still humbling as I approach study now. I try to remember how confident and wrong I have been, like many times, lots and lots of times. So confident is good, overconfident is not. And the wisest people in the world, the wisest people that you'll ever meet, are more aware of what they don't know than what they do know. They focus more on what they don't know than what they do know. People start gaining understanding and knowledge, and then you can fall into this Gnostic trap where we're seeking more enlightenment instead of applying fundamental truths. Love Yah, love people. Let's start there. You know what I'm saying? And that's all unpacked as we read Torah, as we read the prophets. We know how to apply that in real time. Love Yah, love people. But it's cool to learn stuff, though. I try to learn. I came into this walk by having lids blown off of things, music industry, Illuminati, yada yada yay. You go down that rabbit hole and you start to realize, wow, nothing is what it seems. You just keep on turning over stones until you go following, seeking truth, and that path will lead you to the Son of the Most High. And because He is truth, His word is truth. And so yeah, I think that's the only final destination for anybody truly seeking to know truth. That's why it comes in all different paths. People come in from just truly wanting to know what pleases Yah. You came from Baptist churches where alcohol is a sin, but working a flea market on a table on Saturday isn't. Right, exactly. Learning more every time scriptures are read and heard. Praise Yah. Yeah, and I pray, that's my prayer for me and for all of you, is that we just remain teachable. It's the longer we've been in it, the more we can grow rigid in our thinking and stop testing things that we think we have figured out. You know what I mean? And so it's good for us to revisit topics that we may have already checked, checked off of our list of, like, oh, well, I studied that already. And now I know. Well, sometimes the Father is going to lift another veil from our eyes later down the road. And I think it's possibly just to keep us humble. Every time we think we got it figured out, he's like, you've only seen the very beginning. You have no idea yet. I was approached by a member of a local Masonic lodge that I used to be a member of and told him, I read the book and do what it says. And he shut up. Good. Thank you. You like the background? Got the lights up there. Yeah, I move. It's the same spot that I'm always in. I found myself setting myself up so I could sit. Normally I stand while I'm doing this, but I was feeling like sitting down. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people start keeping Torah and bring a whole lot of leftover doctrines from Big C with them. Yeah, and that's kind of another way of what I was kind of getting at with when Israel came out of Egypt, and the Father allowed this to happen, I think potentially for the illustration of when we come out, we can bring things out that aren't necessarily wicked, but then if we use the things that we bring out with us inappropriately, then it can become a golden calf to us. Amen. I love how the word unfolds and shows more and more layers all the time too. It's a beautiful thing. And one of the reasons that we know it's the living word, because it'll speak to you completely different a year from now than how you're seeing the same passage right at this moment. I mean, potentially you might see the same thing. I don't know, but that happens for me often. My dad was the head of a Freemason lodge. I dodged a bullet on that, but I know a lot about it. Yeah, Freemason, that conversation, that whole study, is one of the things that kind of snapped me awake, when I realized that the enemy is hard at work and hustling. It put a fire under me to fight back, to be on offense, to not be, just, oh yeah, you take it in stride, you just take it on the chin and keep going. But yeah, and you do, of course, but like, we got to be playing offense now. We need to put the devil on his heels, in my opinion. And I think that's kind of what lit a fire in me. I was like, what am I doing for the kingdom of Yah? What am I really doing to share the gospel of the kingdom to come before it's too late for people? I mean, and that's really what it's about, is trying to. It says the harvest is plenty, but the workmen are few. I just want to be in the field. I want to be about the Father's business. Yeah, so we got some people have some information on the Mason stuff. That's interesting. I've been in their inner rooms with the walls. What a creep fest. Yeah, it's weird stuff. I mean, they're weirder than what we know is weird, and it's weirder than that, right? Like the Jesuit oath, if you guys have heard that. True with Yahuwah, able then to spoil Egypt of their gold. Yep. Yeah, he allowed them to spoil them of their gold, and which, that was like something he was letting them do that, and then they go and turn it into an idol. They start checking all the Torah boxes and get stuck in it and forget why they came out of Egypt in the first place, right? Exactly. Worship them with their lips, but their heart is far from him. And we must be very careful that we don't fall into that trap. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not on the hat for us to forget, as frontlets between your eyes, to love him with all your heart, all your being, with all your might. That is like setting the bar all the way up. you know, he doesn't want 99%. He wants 100%. And and to love Yah and to love people, I feel like that is like to unpack that. That's how we give him 100%. Sometimes you love him by loving people, and sometimes um it's loving the people that, quite frankly, are like really on your nerves. Um, because I think that that's when love is really tested. It's not your wife and children, which can also, we can also be tested in the home, of course, and sometimes more so in the home. Um, but it's the people that are not easy to love. It's easy to want to love my wife and children. It's not easy to want to love, somebody who's being real erratic or very difficult, or you know what I'm saying? Like there's some people we will fall into those situations where we're given an opportunity to love those who are difficult to love. And praise Yah, he loved us and loves us even though we were and are and can be difficult. So praise Yah. I agree. The best defense is a good offense. I thought about making a t-shirt because I had this, word play in my mind, but it doesn't really work. It doesn't really work on text, but it's, to be an offensive Christian, to be an offensive believer. We don't really uh advertise the word Christian for us because, I'm a messianist, as it says in the uh TS 2009 version of the scriptures. Um, but anyways, offensive believer, where I'm pressing up the court, and it also by default will make you offensive. It's the same spelling, same word, just double play on words. Hmm. Helped a guy build a coffin in Afghanistan because it needed it for some Freemason ceremony, and I knew how to work with wood, and that my dad was a Mason. Interesting. Yeah, the Freemasonry is more widespread than most people are aware. Nazarene. Sorry, I'm reading your guys' comments. Nazarene, the walls open to hidden throne rooms. Not sure what you mean. Um, when we love people, we're loving Yah because we bear his image. Amen. I agree with that 100%. All right. Chicken Farmer Plus says, I actually despise people because of the evil that they choose over the love of Messiah and the Father. Well, we should pity them. We should pity them. You should not despise them. I think that we should hate what the Father hates, but we are his hands and feet, and the sick need a physician. And I think that we need to be sympathetic to people who are lost. We all have family, friends, and people who are lost. And I mean, I was lost. I was lost. Most of you guys don't know this, but I was addicted to heroin and meth and all kinds of stuff. Anything. I was just anything I could get my hands on. I was so lost. And I still call myself a Christian, if you could believe that. I did. And so maybe I have a soft spot in my heart for people who are struggling and they're in their sin. Um, we should not despise them. I don't agree with that. Sorry. And I'm not proud of that. All glory to Yah for pulling me out of that mess. And it's hard. I can't even, you know, recognize that person as being me. It's a different man. Praise Yah, that man is dead. Got Kermode says, pray that they come out of the lies and into the truth. Amen. Chicken farmer, sympathy is in the dictionary. I will plant the seeds, brother, but that is a choice. Well, you can't plant the seeds without love. I'm just saying. You might do some tilling, and that sometimes that's necessary. All right. Well, you guys, I think I'm gonna wrap it up for right now. I pray that you all are blessed and have a amazing evening. Go spend some time with your families. I hope that you are. I'm gonna try to jump on here again tomorrow night. I want to be consistent. I want to do these Bible readings and get through this Bible reading. Yeah, I want to start doing some studies. I don't want to rush through the word, obviously, but I do want to get done with the read through the Bible so that I can I don't know, I kind of want to take a different approach to how we do these Bible reading videos. So anyways, bless y'all. Thank you for being here. Bobby Thorns, shout out to you, my brother. If you guys haven't checked out his music, Bobby Thorns has got some seriously amazing music. All glory to Yah. But anyways, love you guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Hit the like on your way out. Shalom.